Thanks so much for joining. Also super happy to hear that your son likes our product. I think one key part about our product, Flix, is green. Unfortunately, I'm a bit disappointed. The yellow is not quite the right tint, but we're working on this. Yeah, thanks for joining. My name is Alex. I'm the Vice President for Marketing and Customer Product at Flix. Flix is most famously known for the brands Flix Bus and Flix Train. And today I want to show you how we have been on a journey on diversifying our marketing mix towards more brand engagement. And after this talk, you will understand what Eden Hazard, Nefertiti, and Lollapalooza have in common, and how these three things can help you to prove and measure the value of brand marketing. When I joined Flix around 4 years ago, somebody told me, Flixbus, isn't that this bus company with a couple of buses in Germany? The person asking that question was my mom. Since then, whenever I talk about Flixbus, I want to talk a bit about who we are and what we do, because this perception has a lot to do with what this talk is about, namely the perception of us as a brand and how to improve this perception. Because we're no longer a small startup. Actually, for the German speakers, I think the original quote was in Swabian, and it was about die paar Busle in Deutschland, so those little buses in Germany. But we are much more than a tiny company with a couple of buses. We are actually a global player that is active in more than 40 markets. We have 8,000 destinations globally, and transported since our founding 13 years ago more than 500 million passengers. We work together with third-party bus partners who drive our buses, more than 1,000 partners and over 5,000 buses. We're also famous for our trains, especially in Germany, Flix Train. Currently, we have around 10 of these trains. If you follow the news in Germany, you know that we have also big plans when it comes to Flix Train. So please stay tuned, because we have big plans in Germany. So as I said, Flix Bus and Flix Train are our main brands that we are famous for in Europe. However, we also recently acquired Greyhound in the United States, a legacy brand with a history of more than 100 years. And we're super proud that Greyhound is part of the Flix family. And we're also happy that with Greyhound, we can bring together this legacy that Greyhound brings and the deep connection to the American culture, but also our Flix technology platform that basically brings this business and takes it into the 21st century. We also have a brand, the number one brand in Turkey. So we're number one in Turkey. We are also number one in Europe, and with our two brands, Flix Bus and Greyhound, we're also number one in North America. We recently launched Australia. We also are present in India, Chile, Brazil, and Mexico, and we're at the verge of launching Peru as our next market in Latin America. And I say we are a global travel tech company because in most of these markets, we do not have a single bus that we own. What Flix provides is a travel tech platform that connects two sides. On the one hand, we have our 500 million plus passengers, and on the other hand, we have the buses and our bus partners, and we connect this B2C business and this B2B business as a mobility platform in the middle. So essentially, it is a very similar model to what Uber or Airbnb are offering, but for long distance bus travel. And in this model, Flix provides the network planning, marketing, product, sales, everything around pricing and the platform. And on the other hand, our bus partners, they take care of the day-to-day operations. They provide the onboard service. They maintain the vehicles. They also purchase the vehicles and take care of this operation. So enough about Flix and what we do. I now want to talk a bit about marketing at Flix. And historically, Flix has been a very performance marketing driven company. And also, I will talk about fancy football things and nice pictures and videos, etc. But I also want to stress that performance marketing is still super important for our business. And this is really about amending our marketing mix and bringing something else. But there are 3 challenges we are currently facing in marketing, and I want to quickly go through these challenges. And maybe because this is the last session in this room, and people might doze off already after the after party, etc., I want to do a quick interactive session to illustrate challenge number 1 in marketing. Maybe by show of hands, who here has heard of FlixBus before I started speaking? I don't think I saw anybody not lifting their hand. So very good. Basically 100% of the people here. Now next question. Who in the audience has taken a FlixBus in the last 12 months or so? So there's only a handful of people, and thank you so much for using our product. Reach out for vouchers. The thing that we saw here in the audience is actually something we also observe in our data. We do not have an awareness problem at Flix. FlixBus, also FlixTrain, but mostly FlixBus in markets like Germany is very well known. We have a great brand. Everybody knows our color. Everybody sees those buses driving around. We do not have a problem there, but we have a huge gap when it then comes to consideration. And I don't want to say that everybody here in the audience should take a FlixBus every week. I'm fully aware that we have a product that is not suited to everybody all the time, but I'm convinced that we have a product that is suitable for almost everybody sometimes. Case in point, this gentleman. People that are maybe my age or older might know him. He's called Marcel Reif. He's a sports commentary legend. He used to do reporting for RTL together with Günther Jauch, did the Champions League. So he's very well known and an absolute icon in football. He now lives in Zurich. He also works still for the Swiss television. And from time to time, he travels from Zurich to Munich. And we stumbled across his Instagram profile and realized he is posting selfies from the FlixBus. And you can even read the post. It's very positive. He says, very punctual, better than taking the train, better than flying, etc. And again, we did not pay him for that, right? He does it on his own. And by all that I know, he's probably a multi-millionaire, right? He could afford a private driver. He could afford to fly, taking the train. No, he takes the FlixBus and he's very proud and shows this. And that shows that, we have a product that is actually suitable for many people more often than you would think. Little side note, we did then reach out to Marcel Reif and we did a podcast advertisement on his own podcast with the Bild-Zeitung. And actually, all the comments we received around this ad were essentially saying, this is the stupidest thing ever, the most unrealistic ad, as if Marcel Reif would ever set foot in a FlixBus, right? So that shows you that number 1 challenge in marketing for us is we're just not top of mind when it comes to travel. People do not consider us and people do not think about us when it comes to where should I go and which mode of transportation I should take. I'll briefly discuss challenge number 2 because most in this room know this maybe even better than I do. If we look at organic traffic and search volume, it is projected to decrease a lot in the future. This is not just due to LLMs or the rise of agentic web, but that's also partly a reason. There's also a reason that many people, especially Gen Z, they go elsewhere if they want to look for inspiration. So particularly on travel, in the UK, 60% of Gen Z say the number 1 inspiration source for travel is TikTok, and number 2 is Instagram with 50%. So the challenge we're facing is traffic is moving away from traditional search. And keep in mind, this is where historically Flix has been very, very strong. And challenge number 3 is that we do incrementality testing, and I highly recommend everybody does it. If you do it, then you know that incrementality can vary quite a lot depending on the circumstances. So whether it's branded, whether it's non-branded, whether you're in a new market or in an established market, depending on the relations that you're advertising, it can either be extremely effective for paid search. So basically, if you shut down your advertisement, all of the revenue that you attribute is lost. or in some cases it can actually be 20% incremental. So it really varies a lot depending on the situation. So again, want to stress, performance marketing is a great tool and also extremely important for Flix. Nevertheless, if you take incrementality into account, the incrementality can be lower than you would initially expect it to be. How do we face these challenges now? And this is where I will talk about brand engagement. We add brand engagement to our mix. We diversify by expanding underrepresented channels. So what I'm not talking about today, but we're obviously also expanding is media, out of home, and other channels. And we also double down on marketing efficiency because we really want to understand the incrementality of our channels to understand what is the return of each euro that we invest. And the most prominent example of our brand engagement activities is our partnership with UEFA. So more than 1 year ago, we started partnering with them and we're sponsoring the UEFA Europa League and the UEFA Conference League. And to get you in the mood, here is a small teaser from our current campaign that we're running in the United Kingdom.
With wallet-friendly prices from Flixbus, follow your team across Europe and have fun with your favorite people. More than a game. Flixbus.
So this is our campaign that is called More Than a Game. And for us in this campaign, it's really important to stress that we are an enabler for travel and we want to enable travel for everyone to then get more from life. So we want to get people to the matches, to experience something, but also beyond that, we want to bring them together with friends and family and experience cool things together. For example, on social media, we now have a campaign that's called the 90-Minute Tourist. And here we illustrate how much fun you can have 90 minutes in a stadium, but then we also showcase how much fun you can have within 90 minutes if you want to explore a city. So we really want to stress that we are here to basically provide travel for everybody to experience cool things in life. And since we partnered with UEFA, obviously a lot of people have asked me, why did you choose this engagement? Why did you choose this partnership? And there's multiple reasons. I mean, first of all, bus travel and football is actually a good match, right? The teams arrive via bus. We also look at people using our product. A lot of them travel to sports matches. So it is something that is actually quite close. Another thing is, we believe that as a pan-European travel company, we're also perfectly suited to sponsor a pan-European competition. And we even back this up by data. So before we entered this partnership, we looked at where are the departure cities in Europe for Flixbus and Flixtrain, and how does that overlap with the competitions that we want to sponsor. And the cool thing about Europa League and Conference League, for those not familiar with this is not Champions League, right? This is not, Madrid, Barcelona, Munich, etc. It's oftentimes smaller clubs, and those tend to be perfectly connected with Flixbus. So it's actually a great mix, a great match. And again, when it comes to viewership, also the Flix market coverage and the league's market coverage is actually has a great overlap. What do I mean? Let me make a counter example. If we were to sponsor Champions League, for example, then we would pay for a lot of viewership and visibility in Asian markets. And yes, we are in India, and yes, we're in Australia, but there's just a lot of losses in those markets. And with this European-centric competition, we see that the viewership is actually much better suited to our network and to our customer base. And then the last thing is we wanted to do something big. And we wanted to go big and be bold to then have measurable impact. And I will tell you about the impact and how we measure it in just a second. But with this approach, with a big partnership, we can actually, via a survey-based approach, because of the ginormous reach that we have, understand after a year of partnering with UEFA, do we see an uplift in consideration and usage of the people that are actually following the competition and are exposed to our ads versus a control group that we carefully selected that is actually not exposed to the competition. And you can only do that if you have a big partnership, because then you can do statistics and essentially do a survey that involves a statistical representative segment of your customer base. Obviously, with this partnership, we also piggyback a lot and borrow equity from UEFA's channels, not just on the LED boards during the matches, but also with digital touchpoints. And also we borrow equity from famous footballers. Best example here would be our so-called trophy tour, where famous people like Eden Hazard take the trophy and drive with a Flixbus through Europe to show it around. And here I have an example of how that looks like.
Let's go!
Sebastian Rode!
So, as said, after 1 year of partnering, we were able to essentially measure the impact of our partnership. And what we saw is, before we did the partnership, we built a clear business case and defined KPIs and said, okay, if usage and consideration goes up by a certain amount via this approach, we believe that we have a positive return on investment. And this is also what we saw. When it comes to consideration, we see an uplift that is actually better than what we expected in our business case. And even in usage, we see that we have a small but measurable uplift in usage of our product, and therefore we believe that this partnership actually brings a value for us and a positive return. Nevertheless, football is only one thing that we do. We also do other partnerships, and what we do here is we look at our brand surveys, we ask our customers and try to understand, why do people travel with us? And yes, some of them go to sports competitions, but oftentimes people visit friends and family at home, or they want to experience culture and entertainment. And for us, it was also clear to explore these two elements, culture and entertainment, when it comes to brand engagement. And one partner that we have is the Museumsinsel in Berlin, the Museum Island. We are sponsoring or partnering with them. And the cool thing is that they also let us do things that are a bit more crazy. And here's our most recent campaign that we call Life on the Island.
Ah, right on time. Dietmar, is that you? No rush, lady. You have a guaranteed seat on this train. Look at you, Dietmar. Traveling like the humans in comfort, with Wi-Fi and charging outlets, and all for the price of 2 pretzels. No way! We made it to the Museum Island in Berlin. You can't fly with those. This is Life on the Island, just a Flix train away. Travel to the Museum Island Berlin. Book now from €4.99.
Yeah, so for us, also super cool to have a partner that allows us to do these crazy things, to have parties on the Museum Island, because it's really a 360-degree campaign. We have, parties where we invite people. You can even buy Flix merchandise in the museum shop. And it's very cool to experiment with this and have a partner that allows us to do things that are a bit more crazy than, for example, in our UEFA partnership. I said culture and entertainment. I don't want to speak too much about entertainment because I'm also super happy to then open the floor to questions. But there's other festivals and things that we do in the area of entertainment. So for example, we are partnering with Lollapalooza, and we're also partnering with the Reeperbahn Festival. On the left, you can see some impressions from something that we did for the Reeperbahn Festival, where we took a Flix train from Berlin to Hamburg, and we essentially had a festival train where in each wagon you had different people, different musicians, different music styles, and it was a huge party that we also amplified on social media. So this is also how we want to showcase that Flixbus is a cool brand, and you should try us out to go places, for example, to visit the Reeperbahn Festival in Berlin. So coming to a close, what have we learned on our journey so far? And I talked through the challenges that we face in marketing, and then how we basically address them with brand engagement, but also with other means. So at the beginning of this journey was to really understand the status quo and to understand how does incrementality affect my marketing activities. And after reviewing the status quo, to understand, is my marketing future-proof? So how would it look like in 2 years? How would it look like in 5 years? And is it set up in a way that I'm facing those challenges that I see for my business? And then for us, it was clear that we need to diversify. And we diversified by adding the new and not killing the old. So we're still in our very first steps when it comes to brand marketing. We're still exploring, media marketing, social media. We believe that we've been fairly successful over the last couple of years, but we didn't say performance marketing is no longer important, because it's still very important. So it's really about adding something new rather than killing the old. And last but not least, it's important to commit to measure the success that you have, also beyond the traditional MMMs that are oftentimes used to measure marketing effectiveness, because I think what we have seen is that those tools are good, but especially when it comes to measuring brand engagement, there are other tools that can help you better. And I think with our UEFA example, we also showcased that it is possible to measure and prove the success of brand marketing. Thank you so much. Super happy to use the remainder of the time to answer questions.
Thank you for the session. I really enjoyed it. Something comes in my mind is that as a small company or a small brand that doesn't have any huge resources to actually conduct those kind of huge marketing mix, yep. But will there be a proper and efficient or a clever way to actually collaborate with some cultural experiences like football and art and festivals as a small companies?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question. I would rather see the other way around. So I think the challenge for us at Flix was that since we are such a big company and since we have such a great legacy also in performance marketing, it was hard to convince people to also build a brand beyond performance marketing. And I think maybe smaller companies there oftentimes might have it a bit easier to experiment with these things because they don't come with all the legacy and the burden that we had. At least that was my experience. And that was why we then chose such a big partnership like UEFA to say, okay, if we want to do something, here are KPIs, this is how we're going to measure, but it will cost us a couple of million. Whereas I'm under the impression, based on the companies that I have spoken to, that with smaller companies, that might not be the case. It might be easier to convince people that building a big brand, building a love brand is something that is essential. And therefore, I think it might actually be easier. Arguably, the measurability is then, a bit harder. But that's my point of view here.
Making it easy on changing the microphone. One quick question. So what's for you the differentiation between a partnership which allows you to market your product, for example, the Museum Island, which I feel like has a very clear use case as a spot, and showcasing your company, versus potentially the premiumization of the brand Flix? Is that a consideration for the UEFA partnership, for example, to lift the brand by having an official sponsor to some degree?
How did you call it?
Sorry. So do you split your partnerships into operational, e.g. Museum Island, let's make an add-on story about this, and premiumize the brand by having a big partner?
Yes, but that's not the differentiation we make. I would actually say Museum Island and partnering with and that's the official name, Stiftung Preußischer Kulturbesitz, is something that premiumizes the brand maybe even more than UEFA, right? Because it's a very established foundation. So I wouldn't make that differentiation that is not premium, but UEFA is. Where we do, and to be fair, we would also introduce our product even more with UEFA, but UEFA has certain restrictions that the other partners do not have because there's a lot of approval processes involved and there's things you can do and you cannot do. But that's beside the question. Where we do make a difference is between clear, let's call it revenue partnerships, and those big brand partnerships that I was talking about. So a revenue partnership would be, for example, last year I think we partnered with a couple of bakeries, and you could get pretzels at the bakery, and then in the bakery bag you had a printed voucher for Flix. There was a voucher code on there. It's very trackable. It's really to stimulate demand and to generate revenue, whereas the brand partnerships are more to premiumize the brand, create consideration, and higher brand attraction.
Thank you for the presentation. Just being curious, what is the share of Flix buses you manage yourself and Flix buses that are managed by other entities?
So in Germany, we own one bus. The reason for that is, according to German law, you have to have one bus to be able to apply for bus concessions. So Flixbus is the concession holder for all those lines. But in Germany, basically 100% of the operations is with our bus partners. The only places where this is a bit different is Greyhound, because we basically also acquired the operations, a small fraction of what we do in Turkey. And Flixtrain is a different animal. But if it comes to buses, essentially all the Flix buses you will see, so the ones that say Flixbus and they are green and they don't say Greyhound, wherever you go throughout the world, whether it's India, Mexico, we don't own them. Where's the bus driving? I don't know, actually. I still, whenever I get asked this question, I remember, damn it, you have to figure out where this bus is. I even don't know if it's like a golden bus that is in some kind of garage or somewhere, but I know that we have to have one to be able to apply for concessions. Yeah.
Hello. So is this brand engagement strategy replicable for other countries or for other markets? Is this, I don't know, can you do it again with other markets?
Yeah, and we are doing it. So to be fair, Flix has a very centralized marketing organization, especially for markets like the European markets, the core markets. However, where we do make exceptions, or where we basically have also local marketing teams that partner or engage in partnerships, is, for example, India, Latin America. And so, for example, our Indian team at some point approached me with also a football partnership where they sponsored a legends match between Real Madrid and Barcelona, and then you had like Luis Figo riding a Flixbus in India, for example. So that's something that is replicable, and we're doing it especially in those markets, because what we do here, especially with UEFA, I think is very good for the European markets. Museum Island is obviously a very German topic, but also good for Flixtrain, and that's a focus area for us because we really want to also create the awareness and the consideration for that brand.